The long-awaited show began with a narration to a different perspective of the battle between the giants and the gods that occurred in the Season 1 final. Meanwhile, we see Zeus as he fights against Hera in the underworld. However, Hades and Persephone are scheming to attain the Eleusinian stone. With it, Persephone can avoid being separated from Hades every 6 months. They can also utilize the stone's power to leave the underworld and seize control of Olympus. Hades has sent 3 of his shadows to sneak into Olympus, which is currently empty. Meanwhile, Zeus, concerned that Hera might obtain the Eleusinian stone, instructs Hestia and Athena to take it and hide it with Gaia. As the shadows make their way to the stone, we see the battle from their point of view. They finally reach the chamber, but it is guarded by Gaia's security. They hide and watch Hestia as she is allowed entrance. She then takes the stone, as we also see the mighty power from the stone charging through her body. However, she was able to leave with the stone, with also Athena seeing it as their opportunity. The shadows attack and chase them. The goddesses are cunning, but the shadows notice the Keres, who are eaters of the dead. They command the Keres, eater of the dead, to attack Hestia and take the stone. Meanwhile, while Athena is distracted by Seraphim's demons, the Keres attack Hestia. They almost get their hands on the stone, but at that moment, Zeus then sacrifices himself. Hestia explodes and destroying the Keres, killing them all. She escapes unscathed while Hades is furious at the shadows. He lashes out at them, but they are not utterly useless. They have figured out that Hestia is on her way to Crete. Meanwhile, Athena finds Heron and tells Hermes to take him back to Olympus. But as they head there, she is surprised by the lightning that had answered to Heron. A barely conscious Heron suddenly hears a voice that tells him to find the sword that Zeus had forged for him in Season 1. It asks why, and she tells him that it will help him in the war. It will also help him save Seraphim, his brother. Meanwhile, we see Hestia. She reaches Crete, where Gaia meets and comforts over Zeus' death, and also her hugging here while saying, "Power always corrupt the best of the best," before taking the stone for safekeeping. In the underworld, however, Hades is disheartened as he can now never get his hands on the stone, as Gaia has most likely put it in the hidden realm. Although Persephone is not deterred, as she tells him that Gaia can try to hide it all she wants, but she's certain that they will find it. Just then she also points out that Gaia is a giant, which means Seraphim, who is part giant, can most likely get past her. Immediately, we see Hades as he heads toward the battlefield and provides the payment for Seraphim, so he can have passage to the underworld. In the next scene, Heron woke up from his unconsciousness and heads straight outside. He then began having a flashback of the battle he had with his brother, as he's still in pain about the loss of his brother, as we see him screaming very loud and in tears. And just as he talks to a friend, he then sees a spider hovering around his body. Just then, he's meant to know that it was the fate calling him at that moment, but decided to kill it and ignore the calling. Meanwhile, in the underworld, we see Seraphim as he communicates with Hades. Just then, Seraphim realizes where he is now. However, Hades promised to help Seraphim from the fate that awaited him in hell, but if only he could kneel before him. Seraphim is furious by this as he asks Hades what he wanted. Hades responded saying he wants justice as to those who ruined Seraphim's life did same to him. However, he then made Seraphim known that he either worked for him, Hades, or he faces judgments. But Seraphim then told Hades that he chooses judgments. Seraphim is then brought to the council as they introduce themselves as the kings who stand judgment. As they also tell Seraphim that he himself has sent many life for judgment, and now he's his turn as he has killed many innocents, including his mother, as we the viewers see a flashback of all Seraphim past and evil deed. Although they also showed himself as a kind person as he shows love and not fully evil. Just then they asked Seraphim if he repent, but he replied no. They tell him that all men make mistakes but can also change his course as they can show mercy. But he said he won't repent as he want nothing from them all. This angers the gods as sentence him to suffer an eternity in Tartarus, as his fate shall burn the pride off his soul. Seraphim demand to speak, as he also informed them all that they are coward and who were they to judge him, as he also called them bastard son of Zeus. He then also criticized all their deed. The gods became furious by this, and their servant began beating Seraphim, but as they did so, Seraphim also fought, taking 2 of them out. A big battle began off-screen. Meanwhile, Hades informed Persephone about Seraphim as he has a grand distrust of their ilk as he did not agree to their purpose. Persephone advised Hades that gentle persuasion often succeeds where force fails. The scene then switches as we see Zeus arriving as he meets his parents. They asked about Melly, but she seems to be hiding while crying as she's sad that her mother wants to leave. Meanwhile, they both comfort her as she promised she will be back soon. We then see as different individuals suffers in hell for their sin, including Seraphim, who's now punished for water. Hades kept on persuading Seraphim as he also confessed that he has always been with him right from day one. Seraphim tells him that Hades should have let him die. Just then, Hades shows him a pass as he narrates a story to Seraphim, with also about the stones and how Zeus kept and used the stone. But then he also tells Seraphim about his plans as he wanted to get the stone from the underworld since it's born of a giant blood. However, Seraphim swears not to be used as a pawn again as he preferred suffering for all eternity. The scene then takes us to Heron as he goes to a blacksmith, who then told him to learn how to use his power. Heron asked for his help in finding the weapon Zeus made for him. He then gave him a compass. Just then, a giant and warriors approach their kingdom as they all bow. We are then led to know that half of those who came to the kingdom did so to say goodbye, while the other half are there to confirm the thunderous demise. They also discuss about the death of Zeus to Heron, as they both promised him that they wouldn't let his legacy just die off. Just then, they notice the Lord of the Underworld isn't present to pay his last respect. Back to Seraphim, Hades insisted that they both take a walk together. They got to the Lethe River, but Hades explains to Seraphim that the Lethe water erases all memory and pain by also freeing you of your past. He also narrates to Seraphim how he met the love of his life, as Persephone ate 6 pomegranate seeds, thereby blinding herself to the underworld. However, Zeus punished her for that, and Hades refuses to have his wife stripped away from him time and time again, and to watch his children shed tears at the start of each spring. They both together as he shows Seraphim the wraiths who cannot afford to cross over it, as they drift aimlessly in torment. Hades kept on pushing Seraphim as he shows him more flashback of how he ignored his own mom's last wish and became evil. Hades begs Seraphim to help him put an end to their suffering. Just then, he agrees to help Hades only if he brings the lady over and then drink the Lethe water, as he wants her to lose all her memories of him and the pain that he caused her. In episode 4, the spider from earlier kept on calling Heron as they hunt him, then asking why he has been avoiding them. They show him some vision and tread. Just then he wake up, only to be in another dream. The scene then switches to Seraphim and Hades as they both go to the palace. Hades gave him a weapon and also a little jar of magic spell, as it will help go unnoticed. Seraphim then drank it in serious pain. We then see him change back to his previous human form, but he still has his demonic powers. Heron is busy thinking as he's furious at the same time. Meanwhile, Heron's siblings discuss about heirs trying to take Zeus' position. Just then, Heron decides to pay his respects and leave. As he goes to do so, however, his annoying brother arrived at the scene as he informed Heron that he can never be like them as he will always have mortal blood running through his vein. Heron then told him that it's fools like him that made their father die. Immediately, a fight breaks out. Heron leaves as he promised to meet him in the battleground. They begin a competition, but his brother seems very strong than Heron. They goes head-to-head in scores and decide to battle it in a fist fight. After a long extended fight, and with Heron getting hit badly, Heron goes crazy with his lightning and began punching his older brother hard. His older brother then goes furious by this as he hit Heron very badly. However, Heron refuses to surrender. Just as they planned finishing themselves off, they get interrupted by Hera, as they are both reminded that the games are meant to honor the dead and not add to the pile. Their children are furious about Hera, but in the same ceremony. She tells them that if it helps that she would banish herself for 15,000 years and without stepping her foot into the kingdom. But they are still not happy by this, so she leaves. Just then Gaia, mother of Titan, and the earth giants appeared from the ground, warning them to stop their foolishness. Heron informed his sister that she speaks to him in his dream. Gaia ordered that they let Hera partake in the ceremony, and after that she should fulfill her word by leaving. The ceremony then took place as everyone paid their last respect. One last time, we see Zeus thanking his children for their deed. Heron rejected a ring which was gifted to him by Zeus, but Zeus held him that Heron is his son and he merited it. Heron tells his siblings about Gaia asking him to find the sword Zeus made for him, and then save his brother Seraphim. This made them confused as to they don't know why, because how can he save one who's dead? The scene then switches as we see Zeus in the underworld as he tries crossing over. Just then, just as he's about to leave, he decided that there's something he wants to see. Immediately, he proceeded to go visit the people. However, that person is no one other than Queen of Corinth, Heron's mom. They both shared a hug together as they both embrace each other's. Although after the whole emotional scene, Queen of Corinth slapped Zeus as she said that slap was for Seraphim, as he should have told him and spared her from all the suffering she went through. She then tells Zeus that when she died, she saw every action she did and how it's affected others. Just then Queen of Corinth see as they come for Zeus and then hugged him one last time. Meanwhile, Heron arrived at his village, where he then had a flashback of his mom. His companion also showed him the place where Zeus placed a coin on Heron's mom's eyes. Heron asked where she was buried, but they don't seem to know. Heron is very sad by all this. Just then he found something, as it seems the ring was a key to a door. However, we see Hera and other gods in the council as Zeus also stand for his own judgment. He then saw flashbacks of his deed, even his battle with the giant. Although he's then told that he's philandering, it's a black mark upon his own soul, as no victory could ever forgive these horrible acts, as deed will forever follow him with shame. Also, there's still another matter that would be resolved, as we see Hades saying Zeus has always maintained that the realms of the world were divided fairly, as Hades questioned him. Zeus isn't happy by these questions. Just then we see a flashback, as then stone didn't get to Zeus' hands willing, as it seems that Hera used her powers to hand over the stones to Zeus, as Zeus didn't want to give up the powers of the stone. Immediately, Hera objected this, as these was her doing and not Zeus, as she insisted that she did it for the greater of good, and as Zeus was the strongest among gods, as there could be only one god who was found worthy of the stone, which was only Zeus, and even Poseidon agreed with her, as he also knew her plans from the beginning. As also Zeus sacrificed himself to save Hera. Meanwhile, Heron kept on going deep into the underground. Just then, he found his father in holographic form, as Zeus told him that he accumulated all his knowledge inside the underground for Heron. Heron returns back, but then they found traces of blood and follows the track only to find dead bodies. Back to the Zeus judgment. Hades tried everything possible to bring down Zeus, and he called him selfish. Then they asked Zeus if he repent, to which he said he does. They told him that the only thing which can save him now, as to the judgment isn't to his favor, is only if those who are the world above do good deed in Zeus' name, that perhaps his station can improve. However, but until they see what the fruit they bear, he will reside in Tartarus. At the final judgment given to Zeus, Heron is informed by his brother that those who were dead were attacked by Cares. They are surprised as to Cares only feed on the dead. However, as since Zeus has passed, many of the creatures he kept in line have begun to run free, and Cares now feed on a living. Back to Seraphim, we see him traveling as Hades guides him through. Meanwhile, Seraphim decided to stop somewhere first and then kill the eagle monitoring him. He goes and then found a giant, as the giant asked if Seraphim seeks passage across the gorge, and if yes, he must solve his riddles correctly. A flashback shows a Seraphim bride tried saving a boy. Just then he also gave her a riddle as she passed, but then he decided to kill the young boy in her. And he's furious as why he killed her. They both began fighting. After a long extended battle, Seraphim eliminated the giant. Just then he sees her scaff and began having beautiful flashback. Then he leaves, as he promised her suffering will end soon. These episodes then came to an end. Please, the remaining last 3 episodes will be uploaded soon, so please subscribe so you get updated as soon as possible.